Thrall is a beloved character, both for Warcraft fans and WoW tourists. And why wouldn't he be? His whole story is well developed and he's a character that grew up with the game. We got to see Thrall in his many moments, from saving the Horde by taking it to Kalimdor, to him becoming the Earth Warden. Eventually he got a family and had 2 children, the nice story. Thrall's whole story is so detailed and easy to read that it makes sense why so many people would like or hate this character. Thrall played a role in almost every expansion since the birth of World of Warcraft. And that's important because it's rare to find characters that are so reoccurring in a game's life like Thrall is. Yet behind all this story and glamour lies a tragic failure. And no, I'm not talking about the recurring story of the elements refusing to listen to him for the millionth time already. No, his strategy is much deeper, and one with immense implications for both the future of Azeroth and for the Horde. But before we get to that, we need to understand Thrall and a little bit of his history. He's not that kind of orc. He did not grow up in your typical orc family unit. He was not raised in the microculture of his clan or the macroculture of orc kind. His parents were assassinated by the order of the Shadow Council, and he was adopted by a mean drunk that wanted to use him. Thrall will be schooled in strategies and fighting by this man named Blackmoore, but he will learn kindness from Tarita, a human girl that did not see Thrall as a monster as everybody else did, and she did not abuse him. Blackmoore wanted to use Thrall to form an orc army and use it to conquer Lordaeron from the Menethils. But that plan would fail because one day, with the help of the girl Taritra, Thrall would escape his prison and set forth to find other orcs. He would see how the liturgy of the labor camps affected the orcs, and then he would meet with the War Song and form a strong brotherhood with his chieftain, Grom Hellscream. And after that, finally, Thrall would find the clan of his parents, the Frostwolves, where he would be trained to become a shaman. Later on, he would meet Orgrim Doomhammer, and with his help and that of the War Song, they would free the imprisoned orcs. Orgrim would die during one of these raids to free the orcs, and Thrall gets appointed as the new Warchief of the Horde. Thrall would then move on to Durenhold, the place where he was kept captive, and Blackmoore's domain. There on the gates, on pikes, the heads of Taritra and her family awaited Thrall. The Horde would siege and win this fight against Durenhold, and Thrall would get his vengeance. Ironic, isn't it? Thrall would end up doing exactly what Blackmoore wanted out of him. He would lead an orc army. Fortunately, it was not as Blackmoore wanted. He wouldn't lead it against Lordaeron, but he led it against Durenhold. And he would lead it using everything he learned from the humans. Thrall's own Quasimodo story is one that fills us up with hope to see a brighter future for the Horde, and that future would come. Of course, not without downsides. Thrall would change the Horde in some ways by creating gender equality, but also ignoring the old traditions of the slave pit fights, or at least being unable to change it. Nevertheless, one would expect a man of both worlds, human and orc, to have a better understanding of how to solve certain problems that come with rulership. Yet nature wins over nurture when it comes to Thrall. What I mean by this is that the way orcish culture works, orcs have no concept of vision, of planning for the future. They are creatures that live in the now, a race that understands the past and present, but cares very little for the future, or not at all. Maybe this way of life is a result of their forceful materialization through magic during the time of the First Horde. Maybe it's their own aging process that affects this, or they are the product of a dangerous world. The reason is, quite frankly, irrelevant, and it matters little how or why they are like this. What matters is that they are. This commonality is what doomed orc kind, first when they butchered the Draenei, then when they drank the blood of Manroth, and its biggest contributor to Thrall's failure and his failed philosophy, Garrosh Hellscream. Thrall's relation with Garrosh is an interesting one. He and Grom Hellscream were best friends, and Grom helped Thrall tremendously, even asking the young orc to join the Warsong clan. There was a bond there that was impossible to break, even when Grom drank from the cursed fountain and doomed his people once more. Thrall did not give up on his friend, and that was the correct decision, because he managed to save him. And after that, Grom would find his redemption and save Orckind from their curse by killing Manaroth, but unfortunately losing his own life in the process. This makes Grom both the orc that doomed and saved his race. This act casts a gigantic shadow over all the warriors of the Horde. With the opening of the Dark Portal in the Burning Crusade, Thrall would go on to visit his ancestral homelands, and there he would find a group of brown-skinned orcs, uncorrupted orcs, saved by not drinking the blood of demons thanks to a plague of red pox. There Thrall would find Garrosh Hellscream, the son of Grom Hellscream. At that point, Garrosh had raised to a high rank amongst the Malgar orcs, but he was scared for the failing health of their matriarch, Grey Mother Gaea. Garrosh knew that once she would die, he would have to rule. Back then, Garrosh was pessimistic and sullen. He lacked any desire to rule because he feared he would make the same mistakes as his father, a father he was ashamed of. The last news the young Garrosh had of his father was that he drank the blood of Manaroth, the first one to do so, but after that there were no news from him. Thrall would come and show him how Grom was a hero, how he saved Orckind, and that thing changed the young Garrosh. No longer was he ashamed of his name, he was proud of his father and his legacy. Thrall liked what he saw in the young orc and decided to become his bigger brother, as Grom was to him. And like that, Garrosh left the Malgar orcs and became a counselor for the Warchief. A pretty nice story so far that ties elements of Thrall's rise to power. Yet here is where Thrall would make his first mistake. He would make Garrosh one of his counselors. Garrosh knew nothing of this new horde, of how it operated. He knew nothing of Azeroth or the relationship between the Horde and the Alliance, and especially the Horde and Terramore. And yet, Thrall put Garrosh in a position that would mean his words had some importance, had weight to them. After that, there was no period of accommodation for Garrosh. His ideas were those of the old Horde, of might makes right. Rather than present his ideas and try to show Garrosh that there is a better way to deal with these new problems, Thrall did as he pleased and took Garrosh with him. This created a mark on Garrosh when, during a peace summit at Terramore, the Scourge and the Twilight Hammer would attack both the Horde and the Alliance, and the two sides would blame each other for setting up a trap, mainly Varian and Garrosh. With the Scourge's reawakening, Garrosh grew more bold in his ideas and challenges. Thrall would tell Garrosh to challenge him to a duel because he will not make the same mistakes his father did. Because of that insult, Garrosh does challenge Thrall. The match goes evenly until it turns into Garrosh's favor at some point. But they have to stop fighting because of the Scourge's attack on Orgrimmar. Then Thrall uses Chain Lightning on him to push him aside. This is Thrall's second mistake. Nature over nurture. Thrall is an orc, and he acted in a very orc way. He gave in to his impulses and desire for battle when challenged, rather than navigating the situation in a way that would not see the Horde caught in an internal conflict. Tied to this mistake is the fact that Garrosh had the upper hand against Thrall, which presented Thrall as a weak leader. Sure, Thrall equalized the match with a Chain Lightning when the Scourge attacked, but the image was getting shattered. To Garrosh and certain elements of the Horde, Thrall was weak by letting the Alliance be a thorn in their side, leaving Terramore despite the insults of Varian and this fight against Garrosh. In a warrior culture based on pride and honor, a weaker person than you cannot teach you well. You really don't have anything to learn from that person. After repelling the Scourge, Garrosh would be sent willingly by his own volition to Northrend to lead the Warsong expedition against the Scourge. Thrall would then make possibly the only right decision when dealing with Garrosh, and that was give him an advisor that would represent the new ideas of the Horde. Valrok Sourfang. The problem appeared that thanks to Thrall's first two mistakes, Garrosh would care very little for Saurfang's advices, despite the fact that he respected the old orc. In truth, now in Northrend, Garrosh had more free reign in his dealings, so he appointed aggressive commanders that were just as willing as him to battle against the Alliance at every opportunity, and they'll deal with the Scourge. And here might see Thrall's third mistake. Like the first one, he quickly elevated Garrosh to a position he was not prepared for. But this time around, he did so after helping Garrosh cement his ideas. All the good that old Sourfang could do was meaningless thanks to what Thrall was molding Garrosh into. Unwillingly, of course. After a meeting with Ronin that Garrosh and Thrall participated in Dalaran, they found Warsong Hold was attacked by the Scourge. After the battle was won, a report came in that the Horde forces were on the move to flank the Alliance forces during the assault on Icecrown. But Garrosh would tell the general that the Horde will fight with honor or not at all, and this made Thrall proud. Garrosh still upheld honor in fighting against the Alliance, and he would see the Horde fight properly rather than use dirty tricks like poison and mind control. This is probably one of his greater assets, the fact that he cared more about honor than anything else. Now, one mistake I have avoided dealing with is one that Garrosh never voiced, but one that he held until his doom. Orc supremacy. I understand this sounds funny, and it's related to the first mistake. Thrall never showed Garrosh why every race was important in this horde, a horde where they were all equal, not one race above the other. This could have been very well explained, because Garrosh really did not understand why the orcs should give up on their resources to help the other less fortunate races of the horde. Moving on. After the war against the Scourge, Karen would visit Northrend and spend a little time with Garrosh. On their way back, they found an Alliance ship and they attacked it. Garrosh wanted to destroy it, yet Karen managed to make him change his mind. So Garrosh, after defeating the Alliance, offered the survivors rations and let them go, justifying that today they saw the Horde's might and the Horde's mercy. A little bit out of character for Garrosh until now. We can write this off as Garrosh being in a good mood. Even evil kings have moments of mercy. Garrosh and his men were satisfied, though Karen was concerned. Back home in Orgrimmar, Thrall makes his fifth mistake, giving Gorhal to Garrosh. Why is this a mistake, you might ask? And the answer is simple. The boots that Grom left behind were not filled by Garrosh, and there was no way to see it now that the son yielded the axe of the father. From a traditional point of view, it makes perfect sense that after his victory in Northrend, he would be granted the weapon of his father. But this proves to the world that Garrosh was the equal of his father, a savior of the Horde, a successor for the one man that saved Orckind from the curse. And please understand, those are gigantic boots to fill for anyone. The significance of this moment of Garrosh receiving his father's axe is just as important as when Thrall found his clan. You can say that the two parallel each other a little. After trials and tribulations, both find their legacy, which, as we've mentioned, is not the first time Thrall and Garrosh share something in common. This passing of the axe elevates the status of Garrosh. Despite that, he's still treated as before, a counselor that nobody listens to and everyone disagrees with. Imagine Viserys Targaryen being put to sit with the children and the cripple, but he could kill Khal Drogo. Think of Anakin Skywalker being part of the council but not a Jedi Master. Things like those. Both are good examples for the position Garrosh is in now. It affects one mentally. Think about this. Garrosh in his mind has proven himself worthy 1,000 times over. He has proven strong with his deeds, the equal of his father. Yet he is always ignored. So too was he ignored when time came to discuss about the food shortage the Horde was suffering thanks to Draenor's elements going awry and the Night Elves not wanting to trade food after the Ratgate issue. So of course Garrosh proposed that the Horde take what it wants, yet this was ignored. The next mistake Thrall would make is that during the celebration of the victory in Northrend, Magata Grimtotem was there, and she talked to Garrosh about how he was what the orcs needed, what the Horde needed. Why would you let the Grim Totems in on your celebration? They are not part of the Horde, and to let one of them mingle like they are at home is part of the problem. Magata should have been kept 10 kilometers away from anyone with some semblance of importance or a powerful voice. We can also add here that a sub-mistake to be added to this one is the fact that Garrosh was left alone. Thrall should have him at his side when talking with the other racial leaders like Lothamar or Vol'jin or even Karen to give him a lesson in politicking, but also give him a second chance to make a better impression on them. If you counted 6 big mistakes, be prepared for the worst one yet, the 7th. Making Garrosh Warchief. Now, credit where credit is due to Garrosh, he did rebuild Orgrimmar and made it look like a proper capital city. His campaigns found varying success, but the madness that would come with the discovery of Pandaria will leave a rift that will change the world of Azeroth. You have to understand, Garrosh himself said he was not prepared for this. The same way, Karen and many other Horde leaders said Garrosh is not prepared for this. And it was true. Everyone was right, Garrosh was not prepared for this. Yet Thrall considered that Garrosh would make a good Warchief. Remember this, on Warchief he did not groom and he did not prepare and he did not make the heir to his legacy. Now, with that we have all 7 mistakes and it's time to summon our own version of Shenron, to summon Thrall's White Whale, a properly groomed heir. You see, a king, a patriarch, a ruler of any kind knows that his time is limited. Memento mori. Many princes have prepared their heirs, be they from their own dynasty or adopted to rule. For one to do this, one needs vision, foresight, and understanding of time, past, present, and future. There are of course examples of princes that have not prepared anybody to follow up in their stead, either creating a power vacuum once they die, or letting their position fall into unworthy hands. Sometimes the heir, improperly groomed and not well trained, is the unworthy one. Examples are countless in books, movies, history, even video games. And we see the same flaw in Thrall. He was not prepared to leave the Horde in another's hands. His leaving was too abrupt, too fast, and left many open wounds that wouldn't heal for a long time. In true orc fashion, Thrall lacked vision. He did not prepare the Horde for a time when he wouldn't be ruler, and so we can parallel Thrall's decision with one from our real world and our history if you want, and that's Yosef Broz. Of course, certain differences apply. Tito died, and Thrall just gave up on his position. But with the death of Tito came the death of Yugoslavia, and with Thrall's leaving, so left the golden age of the Horde. And we must not forget that this is a philosophy lesson. And Thrall's philosophy is quite interesting. Because Thrall's philosophy was one based on going back to the old ways and combining them with better ideas. To be frank, a respectable thing, but his way of going about it did not help the Horde. Thrall thought that his new ideas would move things. Others will see his way and join him without having to debate those that disagree, without having to play a political game. Basing your philosophy on the simple fact that others will join you without question is also a sign of the old Horde. The autocracy way of leading can work with a race like the orcs, but combine this with other races that, while still autocratic, had different ways of using their powers and different mentalities when it comes to how they should rule. You get a Horde that stands upon a keg of powder. Thrall is open to diplomacy and negotiation, but only with the Alliance, not with the other races of the Horde, not inside. In truth, Thrall considers that his relation with the other leaders, at least Karen, Vol'jin, and Garrosh, is the same one he had with Grom, where they were brothers, but one was not the teacher of the other. Well, this can work with someone like Karen, who is old and experienced, but has his own son to groom, and Vol'jin, who, still young, has to carry the weight of his people, very quickly, mind you. With somebody like Garrosh, this won't work. Garrosh needed guidance. He needed a father figure that could teach him and properly mold him. Certainly, if Thrall would have kept Garrosh pessimistic, then he wouldn't have been his biggest mistake and a gigantic sign that Thrall's philosophy doesn't work. Of course, we have to consider the whole issue with the burning blade and the warlocks working exactly under the feet of Orgrimmar, that we start to understand that Garrosh wasn't the only problem that Thrall's philosophy created. Going back, in this scenario with the pessimistic Garrosh, Thrall would need another heir. Garrosh would probably prove a good counselor and wise and cautious, but not properly fit to rule the Horde. And because of that, the options of Karen and Vol'jin were still open. But at this point, this is just fanfiction now. The whole idea is fanfiction because it's based on a properly molded Garrosh who would have been a strong orc to keep the good times afloat and the bad times a little further away. We even have an example of this in the Echoes of Garrosh Hellscream, where we learn that mainline Garrosh, our own Garrosh, was the worst possible outcome for him and us. In all other timelines, he ends up a great hero of the Horde. And then we have to wonder, in those other timelines, what changed? Was it Thrall's philosophy? Was it a little butterfly effect? Or maybe Garrosh was a different person in those ones compared to what we have? It's hard to tell since we will never have those answers. There's a possibility that with Iriel going crazy around with her army of light, we might see a form of Garrosh Hellscream. We might. A light-bound one that is better than the one we have. Nevertheless, let us go back to Thrall. All these mistakes he made with Garrosh are mistakes that could have been easily avoided, and are mistakes that Karen did not make with Bane. Of course, we also have to consider that nature wins over nurture, especially with orcs. We see this in Thrall with the way he treats the Horde, and we can deduce that this was who Garrosh truly was. No politicking, no lessons, no teacher, no father figure would have probably straightened him. Though the father figure one is my favorite option, that I think would have really changed the outcome of Garrosh Hellscream, and would at least give one leg to stand Thrall's philosophy of leading the Horde. Yet none of this happened. Thrall's philosophy of dealing with the Horde was a passive one, was one that hoped the people will follow the leader without doubt or question even if they disagree with him. And many did so willingly, but he did not consider what will happen once you put someone like that in a high position. It's one thing to act passively when it comes to the way you rule, your philosophy in leadership. It's another when your life philosophy is the same one and you neglect to groom the heir apparent to your throne, the one you choose with your own hands. What makes this philosophy and Thrall's mistakes even more tragic is the fact that at the end of the day, when it came between him and Garrosh and Draenor, Thrall never accepted the truth. Thrall said that Garrosh made his own choices, ignoring his faults. And Garrosh told him the awful truth that many people refused to hear, to listen to, including Thrall himself. Thrall made Garrosh. Thrall left him alone. Thrall did not take care to groom him properly, did not prepare him for the position. Thrall not only failed Garrosh as a mentor, a sort of father figure like he should have been, he was the one that truly failed the Horde, not Garrosh. This lack of acceptance when it comes to the responsibility of how Thrall failed the Horde is another example of why nature wins over nurture. The lack of ambition and vision they have for the future is the same lack that they have for responsibilities and accepting their mistakes. And so, we see Thrall fail, his philosophy fall down and become useless, no longer accepted in the Horde overall. And yet there's a funny element to it. Thrall is having problems contacting the elements for the millionth time now. We're retelling the same story over and over, like there is a moral lesson there that Thrall keeps forgetting every time. But this time around we'll have to see what the war within holds for us. If you managed to reach it this far, I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for the growth of the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Arrivederci.